Hello and welcome back. I am 13 doing another video for Squirrel Dealer. Tonight is going to be a fun one. I'm actually quite excited about this one. So this is going to be a gift of the God Pharaoh deck, and we're going to be trying to turbo it out as fast as possible in mono red and just use some of the tools in red to actually generate our card advantage and get out some of the bigger threats. I typically don't play decks like this, but this was a really fun idea that I had because it ends up being able to attack on a couple of different levels. It's not completely a graveyard deck, and honestly, it just looks like a ton of fun. We might be a little weak to interaction, but everything else should be perfectly fine for this deck. So first up is God Pharaoh's Gift. 7 mana at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. If you do, create a 4/4 black zombie token with the exact text on the card, and it gains haste until end of turn. So you'll end up being able to swing in with a 4/4 zombie for whatever card you exile. So we get some really good ETB effects on creatures with this deck. We are going to try to turbo out the God Pharaoh's Gift with Ironcrag Feet. 4 mana, add 7 red. You can only cast one more spell this turn. More than often, we're going to be casting God Pharaoh's Gift, but basically lets us cast some expensive cards in our deck. Then we're also going to be using Runaway Steamkin because we are a mono red deck. This is just a way to generate a lot of mana and help pay for some of the more expensive things in our deck. Also using Chandra for that exact same reason. Her +1 that adds 2 red mana is probably going to be the most used mode that we have. She's also one of the few pieces of interaction that we have to remove things. If we do not have a God Pharaoh's Gift, we also have Ugin as an option. I just love casting Ugin, and I don't really want to play Tron, but this deck actually has a lot of the same play patterns as Tron. Just very powerful card, and notably 8 mana for our future Gearhulk. Then we also have Gate to the Afterlife. This one's a little bit harder to enable because you end up needing to have 6 or more creature cards in your graveyard in order to activate it. I did actually miss this when my opponent was playing God Pharaoh's Gift previously. Yeah, so we're going to be able to use that as an additional way to tutor out a God Pharaoh's Gift. Then the bread and butter of this deck is going to be the Combustible Gearhulk. It's 6 mana for 6 first strike. When it enters the battlefield, an opponent may have you mill 3 cards and take damage equal to the converted mana cost of those cards, or you can draw 3 cards. It's a Punisher effect. Usually these are quite bad, but in this deck we're either getting 3 pieces of gas, or we're going to end up milling ourselves, and between Ugin, the Combustible Gearhulks, Gift of the God Pharaohs, we just have a lot of cards that can end up one-shotting our opponent if we mill correctly. Then we have Combat Celebrant, usually a staple in Gift of the God Pharaoh decks. It'll give us an additional combat step, allowing us to get an additional creature out of our graveyard. So just pretty powerful. It's a 4/1. It blocks pretty profitably if we need it, although we should be aggressive most of the time. Then last but not least, we have a Bedlam Reveler, 8 mana as well. It costs 1 less for each instant or sorcery in our graveyard. We have a couple, but not a lot. We're pretty much going to be full costing this. But similar to Gearhulk, it's a way to draw 3 cards. The prowess isn't overly relevant. It just turns into a 4/4 that can draw 3 cards, and that is about it. Excuse me for a second, I need to close the door, but we're queuing up for our next match, and I'll be off mic for just one moment. Sorry about that. I have a small dog and he is rather annoying. Of note, you can tell that this deck is actually kind of on the cheaper side. And it's also worth mentioning that we have a lot of adventure cards that are technically dual-sided, like this Bone Crusher Giant, that don't appear on the list. So we're not going to be able to see the full list tonight, but that is the majority of it. And this hand is actually fine. So we're likely just going to Ironcrag into a Combustible Gearhulk. But we have a little bit of interaction going on. We would really like to see a Thrill, but if we don't get it, we don't get it. Alright, and opponent's currently on 6 cards. Ugh, pushed the wrong button. Gonna have to do some video editing because I accidentally ended the recording. Fabled Passage is a tap land. It's one of the few tap lands in our deck, but we don't have a turn 1 play, so that's fine. Let's go get ourselves a mountain. We can pass back to opponent. Spire Bluff Canal. I just assume at this point that every deck is copycat until proven otherwise. It could also be a Nexus of Fate deck, although I don't believe they have much red. For the moment, we're just holding up Stomp. Really hoping to draw into a third land. Getting this Godpharaoh's Gift, I'm actually feeling a little bit more inclined to Ironcrag into the Godpharaoh's Gift. Although this is mono red prowess, so without the additional land coming out of our opponent here, 100% want to stomp one of their creatures, but the Combustibles is going to be just a fantastic blocker. Oh, that's not great. At least opponent missed a land drop as well. If we end up having to discard to hand size, we will 100% get value out of this feat. Although that's a draw. We're going to have the Combat Celebrant here. It can get Wild Slashed, but if we do end up finding our fourth land, we'll end up getting a lot of 4/4 creatures back, which seems fine. Pause to read Combat Celebrant. Typically, a mono red deck doesn't play a card like this. We are a little bit of a unique build. Lightning Axe discarding Chart Course. So this might actually be Phoenix. That no lander's kind of rough for them. Cool beans. I guess we'll be checking to see if they have a Fatal Push. Or not a Fatal Push, a Spell Pierce. That pause makes me think that they might have something, but it's fine. With only one creature in the yard, we're not exerting yet. But this should be a respectable clock and turns on a lot of things like the Merchant of the Veil for us. So Combat Celebrant. If I exert it, I untap all other creatures and get an additional combat phase. Godpharaoh's Gift is at the beginning of combat on your turn, so we end up getting multiple triggers with Combat Celebrant, assuming that we have multiple creatures we want to bring back. We're just not there yet. That is a thing in the ice. So their hand has to be super stacked if they kept their one-lander. Oh, that is beautiful. All right, Merchant of the Veil. We're going to haggle, discard a card, and draw a card. We will discard our Combustible Gearhulk. Yeah, that's fun. Let's go to combat, get our Gearhulk back. Again, when this enters, we will end up giving the opponent the option to let us draw 3 cards or to mill 3. If they mill 3, they take damage. They let us draw 3, and honestly didn't find anything great, but we're swinging in for 8. Okay, that's fine. I am expecting them to flip this next turn, so I actually think I want to run out the Merchant of the Veil so that I can... Okay, they're just done. That likely means that they weren't going to be able to flip Thing in the Ice. So they are the Phoenix deck. So we have our Adventure Creature that destroys an artifact. We have Phyrexian Revoker. This is mainly in here for Oko. Wild Slash is in here because partially it is removal if we need something for the smaller decks, but also the Ferocious will make it so that they can't fog us if they're the Simic Turns deck. Alpine Moon doesn't really accomplish anything here. Fry is probably the closest thing that I want. This will allow us to kill a Thing in the Ice. Yeah, I think I want the Fry. So if we're bringing in Fry, we need to cut something. If we stick an Ugin, it's just so good. And exiling Arclight Phoenixes actually feels pretty good. Chandra might be a little bit bad. Let's just take out the Bone Crusher Giants. The Deal 2 Adventure doesn't actually feel that relevant. Alright, so this is Loot Away, Gearhulk, Combat Celebrant on 3, Chandra, or something bigger on 4. It's not an amazing hand, but it has all the pieces, and this is technically a redraw as well as fill in our graveyard for a future gift if we find it. Haggle isn't instant, but I think I'd prefer to just get it out of the way while opponents tapped out. It's very possible that they have Spell Pierces at this point. So let's pitch another Gear Hulk. There's a God Pharaoh's Gift. Amazing. So if we get up to 4 mana and they tap out, we're safe. This looks like a Thing in the Ice. Nope, Chart a Course. Discarding Arclight Phoenix. That's not a land. Not super happy about that. If opponent's able to cast 3 spells, it's going to bring back the Arclight Phoenix as a 3/2. Strategic Planning, mill 3. Well, it's like Anticipate, but instead of putting 2 on the bottom, they put them in the graveyard. Pretty good for getting cards into the yard, as well as card selection, but just hoping opponent doesn't go off too hard. They did mill Spell Pierce, as well as another Chart a Course, it looks like. Spell Pierce is pretty good against us, I mean. Oh, that's not great. Thrill of Possibility is a great card in our deck. It's the instant speed Tormenting Voice. Just lets us put a future reanimation target into the yard and draw 2, just better filtering. If we were in Modern, well, a while back, Faithless Looting would be really good in this archetype. Guess it isn't really the case in Modern anymore. Overall, though, we are playing some pretty greedy cards. Is it Charm Looting? So they've cast 2 spells. We're only 1 card away from the Arclight Phoenix. They should have any number of ops and crash throughs and the like. So I'm expecting this to be coming back. Yeah, they're paying costs. They're playing Haggle. All right. Phoenix down. All right, well, we might be getting hit by variance on this one. We found all 4 Gear Hulks. Our time is also running kind of low. They should have any number of Wild Slashes, and that's disgusting. They're back up to 6 cards in hand. Yeah, not feeling overly confident at the moment. There's a Thing in the Ice. No attack. Alright, well that was likely a misclick. Bone Crusher Giant. I'm actually going to use my discard phase here to get rid of an additional Gear Hulk, and then we're going to Bone Crusher Giant the Arclight Phoenix. Actually, probably should have pitched the Combat Celebrant there. Because if we get 6 cards, we can activate the Gate to the Afterlife. Combat Celebrant, if we do actually get a God Pharaoh's Gift, is just an additional draw. We'd end up having 2 4/4s on the battlefield. But, like, I'm currently only surviving in a world where they're mostly on blanks. And we top deck a Fry. There's 2 Phoenixes. We're good. We're super dead there. So they're going to bring back 2 Phoenixes, swing in for 9. They could have actually flipped this first and then swung in for 13. We're just not going to survive a world that looks like that. Hopefully this time we end up getting a couple more than 2 lands. This hand currently has 3 with 2 looting effects. Perfectly acceptable in my opinion. Chandra can also take care of a Thing in the Ice, so that all seems good. I do want a Merchant here, so I guess that means I'm leading on Mountain. And I think I'm actually discarding the Fabled Passage. I'm going to end up seeing 4 cards by next turn. Yeah, that's fine. That actually means we're going to Runaway Steamkin next turn, then we're going to throw away either the Iron Crag or Chandra, depending on what we draw. This could be a Lightning Axe, but Runaway Steamkin is generating up to 3 mana with 1/1 counters. So if they have removal, they have removal. Lightning Axe targeting Runaway Steamkin, discarding Phoenix is quite bad. Looks like they don't have it. Alright, there's a thing in the ice. We even drew a mountain. This looks like we're going to discard the Ironcrag feat. If we find a Godfarrow's Gift, it feels bad, but Chandra should eventually get us there. And there's a Fry. Would have liked to have been able to cast that this turn, but that's fine. And slight play mistake. If I would have attacked in with the Steamkin here and they blocked, it would have made a attack into the Bone Crusher Giant less apparent. That's bad. They even have Fiery Temper in their deck. It's Runaway Steamkin going down. If we top deck a land, we can still Chandra the thing in the ice away. We did not, so it looks like we just get to fry it. And I'm actually going to be greedy and lead on Thrill. Odds are I'm going to find a land off of this. Okay. That's rough. I probably could have calculated that, but that was going to feel like at least 85%. There's an opt. This thing's going to flip. 8 toughness is going to make it so that Fry can't kill it. I don't have Ironcrag anymore, so the Godfarrow's Gift won't be turned on. Yeah, maybe that was a little too greedy. Not hitting a land there, we do die. Hitting a land there would have been great, but they braid their own Awoken Horror. That's the rubbins. That also means that they have a lot of removal in hand. They are officially out of cantrips, but have a decent amount of targeted removal. Alright, well that's a mountain, so I can double Fry, and that feels awful. If I run out Merchant, they can just kill it. Chandra -4 doesn't really do anything. Chandra Plus is only going to deter them. I think that this is going to be a double Fry turn. And I'm going to wait for them to attack first so they're committed to it. They also left up a blue there. That makes me think that they have a Spell Pierce. Alright, so that's just a loot. That's fine. Discarding 1 Arclight Phoenix and a thing in the ice, so definitely showing the fact that they didn't have the cantrips. There's a Haggle. So if they have one more CMC spell, that means that they're going to flip the Awoken Horror. Or sorry, they're going to flip in the Phoenixes. Words are hard and K. There's the Treasure Crew, so they have a stock hand, but I believe they made their land drop already. Alright, well, we get to Fry, then we're going to Chandra and Bone Crusher Giant that. I mean, I've definitely been in better positions, but this could be worse. If we top deck a land, that means that we get to Godfarrow's Gift. If we don't, we can just Combustible Gear Hulk, and we're kind of back in this. Being at 10 doesn't feel very safe, especially with 1 Phoenix in the yard. If they can just... They just Treasure Cruise, so they have a very stacked hand. If they find another Arclight Phoenix, Chandra goes down, and we're on Ironcrag as our only top deck. Alright, more looting. They did find another additional Phoenix and the Fiery Temper. Ugh. Well, we stumbled a little bit, and Phoenix is a well-tuned deck. I absolutely hated this deck in Modern, so of course it's going to haunt me in Pioneer now that Faithful Suiting's dead. That's a Bedlam Reveler that costs 5 less. Okay, if they have any burn spells, I'm dead. But now I'm on top decking Ugin as my best out. Top deck Ugin -4. Okay, they just haggled away a lightning axe, so they at least have creature removal, or don't care about my creatures. Both could be correct. There's a chart, of course. They did that pre-combat, so they are looking for an additional Phoenix. And a treasure cruise. So they have cast 3 spells. Okay, there's the Phoenix, and we're dead. Phoenix. Phoenix, Phoenix, Phoenix. It is technically a real deck. Being mono red takes away a lot of our interaction options. We don't end up getting things like Rest in Peace. We could run a Grafdigger's Cage, but that's symmetric, so that hurts us as well. I'm going to have to actually take some time this weekend and sit down and fix dual face cards. I think with all the adventure cards coming out, we're going to be seeing plenty of them. Well, we have a Runway Steamkin, and we have a couple of lands. I'll hang on to this. This is a hand I would likely mulligan, but in playtesting, mulliganing did not go very well. Just because the filtering ends up being kind of bad when haggle and things of the like are all... this is Mono Green Devotion. Haggle is technically card disadvantage. We do get to cast the creature half of it, but just having the 2/3 that loots isn't overly great for us. Oh, wow. Yeah, look at that start. Opponent's already at 8 mana. If we find Thrill of Possibility or an additional Haggle, we could actually still kind of be in this. But opponent currently has 9 mana on turn 3. They do only have 1 card left, and it looks like they're about to cast it. They could also just be activating this. Alright, let's haggle. And I'm actually going to discard the Combat Celebrant here. Am I? No, I want the Gear Hulk. We found a land. Not really what I was looking for. Alright, well, hopefully opponent doesn't have a good payoff. I'm expecting them to Leyline. If they untap and Ulamog, we're just out of it. Alright, one was a land. That's another Leyline. So they do have plenty of mana flowing. This is currently giving them 9 mana, so they can still activate this. If we draw a Stomp, we can technically get rid of one of the Mystics. We find another Gear Hulk. Alright, well... I guess that means I'm going to Combat Celebrant, and then next turn I can cast the Merchant for free. Still not great. I want an Iron Crag. If I find an Iron Crag, we are super in this. But we're kind of just buying time until opponent finds a finisher, though. And quite frankly, these Elvish Mystics are going to get large pretty quickly. Yep, 6 power to 9. Nissa Who Shakes the World, so they get to make a couple of land creatures. Alright, well, we are moderately close to going off. We just need a source of fast mana. If we completely blank off, we'll just cast Merchant, and then we'll have Godpharaoh's Gift the following turn. Doesn't attack. Interesting. Okay, well, not great, but this is where we're at. It is possible I'm actually supposed to crack the Runway Steamkin mana to loot with the Merchant, and then I can pitch a Combustible Gear Hulk and potentially find a Ritual or a Stomp or something, but opponent hasn't found a way to kill us yet, and if they don't answer my Steamkin, that means that the Godpharaoh's Gift is coming down next turn. I actually may... No, I'll attack with Combat Celebrant. Hopefully they'll trade off, then I can just reanimate it. Either way, opponent has an absurd amount of mana. Just fade for one more turn. Ah, it's a Nykthos. That's currently 3, 5, 7, 9 mana. So they can activate twice here. They turned on Nykthos. That's cute. So they get to triple activate, which puts me on chump blocking. I'll have to tap down a lot of their creatures if they want to triple activate. Don't really have a significant board clear. I was pretty close to running Star of Extinction. So I can take 18 here and kill off a land, or I could just double chump block duty. No, we're killing a land. Oh, they had the additional activation mana? Alright. That's cute. Was that because this was tapping for double green? Yeah, they were just that one short. Okay, that was my bad. Alright, well, Sweltering Suns comes in. Definitely want to clear out all the little dorks. Kill all the little dorks. We can bring this in for Nykthos. I'm not a huge fan of that, though. This is in here for Lumbering Falls for the Nexus deck. Chandra seems a little slow. Ugin is just fantastic in this matchup. Bedlam Reveler restocking might be a little cute. We can also take a look at Gate to the Afterlife, just because it's slower. And we're taking some of our creatures out. Then I suppose it's just going to be a Combat Celebrant. It's nice that it gets us an additional creature, but that's honestly all it really puts forward. And opponent didn't see enough of our deck to know what we're up to, so I can't imagine they sideboarded correctly. We need an additional land. This is slow but fine. We're looking for a Runway Steamkin or a Ironcrag. Alright, Fabled Passage, and I'm just going to crack it now. It's coming in tapped either way, and we are mono red. I think opponent has actually at least come to that conclusion, so... Then I'm expecting them to put out some kind of mana dork. They didn't start with any ley lines. Wow, and no turn 1 mana dork. Interesting. Oh, look at that. Perfect. That's only a combustible Gear Hulk, but it's very possible the 6/6 will go the distance here. Also, if they mill, we could just one-shot them. We did take Ugin out of our deck, so that's slightly sad, but... Opponent went for Burning Tree Emissary. Makes sense. The mana replaces itself, and it's good for Nykthos. There's a Llanowar Elves. And nothing to do with the red. Alright, well, odds are I'm actually casting Bone Crusher Giant this turn, and that can block the Burning Tree. Llanowar Elves is net mana for them, and they are trying to ramp as fast as possible, so I'm stomping the Llanowar Elves over the Burning Tree. Ooh, and there's a Combat Celebrant. Okay. Pretty decent. Bone Crusher is shock for the adventure for 2, and then if it becomes a target of a spell or ability, it deals 2 damage to that spell's controller. Probably not overly relevant in this matchup. But if they end up finding another Planeswalker or they've drawn into a ley line, they are starting to get some mana. Oh, there's a Nugan. So I have 2 options here then. I can Ironcrag and put out Combustible Gear Hulk, or I can just Combat Celebrant and the next turn Ugin, assuming I find a Mana Rock. I'm expecting my opponent here to mill. So Combustible Gear Hulk could actually be lethal. Let's go ahead and swing in with Bone Crusher Giant. I expect opponent to just let it through. They have a Nykthos out, and this is currently adding to Devotion. 4 damage doesn't actually equate to a whole lot. And I'm hoping that Combustible Gear Hulk goes the distance for me. Whoops, wrong order. Ugin could be pretty game-winning here, but I don't know if I'm going to top deck that land, and opponent's running a little slow, so I'd prefer to actually punish them here. So they get to either have us draw 3 or mill. They mill, and we only hit them for 3. That's heartbreaking. Well, that hit our Sweltering Suns too, which is some of our best sideboard tech here. But now I at least get to run out Combat Celebrant. We're attacking for 10, and opponent's currently at 13. Nykthos is going to give them 5 mana. I'm expecting a Nissa here. Yep. If we would have missed on the land and gone for the Ugin plan, I think we would have been too slow regardless. Combustible Gearhulk does have First Strike. So we're just going to put a lot of pressure up. Walking Ballista for 1. Alright, well that can fog combat for a step from the Combustible Gearhulk. Well, sometimes you get punished for taking what you feel is the right line. I don't believe hitting Nissa for 4 matters, but I am willing to try to take her off the table. I expect opponent block with the Walking Ballista, ping us for 1, and then potentially let this through. Yep. But I attacked first because I do want this Combat Celebrant to come down. Next turn I should be able to attack for 24. Because Combat Celebrant attacks in, exerts, untaps my Bone Crusher Giant and the Combustible Gearhulk, so it's going to get rid of most of their blockers. With only 2 cards in hand, they don't have much going for them. Iron Crag off the top should just be lethal. Wow, new Vivian as well. Alright, well, they get to spread some love. Ugin's minus won't hit the forest. That's disgusting. Alright, and we're currently taking 14. Nope. They are running out something big. So 6, 9. Oh, they can Ulamog here? This looks like another Walking Ballista. Voracious Hydra. Yep. Seems like fun, clean, fair magic. That's a Runaway Steamkin. It's a little too late for this. We've basically lost. The Bone Crusher is going to block here, but I'm still going to end up taking essentially lethal. Yep. Mono Green Devotion is one of the best decks around at the moment. I know some people have been clamoring about trying to get a card banned from it. I think it's a little early for Mono Green Devotion. It is a very strong deck, and the fact that it has access to essentially 12 mana dorks is potentially a problem with the new ley line, but we won't see until the format gets a little bit older. I'm honestly just not a fan of the decks that are very unfun to play against, like the Nexus deck, or honestly Oko. Oko's just been frustrating because he stops so many different strategies. He's just such an aggressive planeswalker for 3 mana. But tomorrow is ban and restricted announcement day, so we'll see what happens. Overall, though, showing for this deck hasn't been that great. We were about a turn off in that last matchup, and versus the first matchup, we did have kind of a rough mulligan in the first game. Otherwise, we probably could have taken it. And some of the playtesting, the best lineups that I've had ended up having like Ugin and Chandra on the board on turn 4. Okay, this is pretty sweet. So I'm going to loot away the Combat Celebrant, then Thrill, probably discard one of the Steamkins. It does depend on what we haggle into and draw for turn. But Combat Celebrant is technically just better in the yard because it's a free combat step. We don't have to worry about summoning sickness, fight mechanics, walking ballistas, all that nonsense our last opponent showed us. Opponent is currently at 6 cards, and they keep their 6. Basic Island Storm Tamer. So this looks like the tempo list. It's very possible that they are able to just interact with us just enough that we're not going to be able to make this happen. We will discard our Combat Celebrant and draw yet another Fabled Passage. So I think I'm supposed to Runaway Steamkin here just so that I'll actually have the additional mana and it can't get Spell Pierced. What opponent's deck is trying to do is run out a couple of tempo flyers that are just slightly annoying and try to kill us before we actually accomplish anything that we're doing. This actually could just be the Spirits list with Siren Storm Tamer. Okay, with them being tapped out, is there more incentive to Thrill of Possibility here? I don't believe so. I just want my mana, and Chandra will actually allow me to cast the Gift of the God Pharaoh with the mana off of Runaway Steamkin. This looks like Spell Queller mana, so I'm going to be leading on the Runaway Steamkin. I really don't care if that gets countered or not. And just casting it is going to give me my... Actually, no. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold for Thrill because it's an instant. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a Spell Queller that they would just run it out there so that they'd have additional damage. Their clock is only 2 damage a turn. Spell Queller would bump that up to 5. That is a Teferi, which means now is the time to Thrill. This Steamkin's going to be a little bit too slow. I could also see opponent bouncing my current Steamkin. I'm also expecting tempo plays out of them. I think I don't want to get 2 for 1. And I draw another one. Fantastic. Yep. Just going for the tempo play. This is one of those cards that I think is just so unfun to play against. Takes all interaction out of the format. This Siren Storm Tamer can counter Chandra's minus. Ooh, boy. That is so close to being awesome. Alright, well, let's just Chandra and run out another Runaway Steamkin. That's going to have to divert a large amount of resources towards Chandra if they want to kill her. And it's also going to make it so that if I minus, they can't just counter this. Sequencing here feels poor because you have to cast the red spells after Runaway Steamkin, but getting Chandra down felt high enough priority that it was worth it. I can also like super multi-spell next turn and attack Teferi with my Runaway Steamkin. Guess it depends on what opponent has, but I can cast the Merchant, the Runaway Steamkin, and the Thrill of Possibility. Going after Chandra. Alright, good on you, opponent. Recognizing what's a problem. That is a Bedlam Reveler. That's actually pretty good. So this is currently costing 6. I can actually just hardcast this right now. I don't think that's correct, but I can do it. Alright, Runaway Steamkin number 2. Let's see if you have a Spell Queller. Okay, maybe that wasn't important enough yet. I actually don't think the Iron Crag's useful at the moment. I just have so much mana, so let's discard it. This should bait out a Spell Queller just because the card draw is a problem. Yep. Makes sense, but my Runaway Steamkins are getting their counters. Then I can cash out Chandra for the Storm Tamer. But if I do, that means that I'm taking the full force of these guys for 4 next turn. Otherwise, I just run out the Merchant, and then I'm squatting on quite a bit of mana. So I think I'm going to force opponent to attack Chandra next turn and just go all in here. They did plus Teferi, so it's very possible that they have Deckenstone, in which case I think I just have to scoop. Okay, Teferi down. I honestly wasn't expecting that. But Bedlam Reveler should restock our hand. Really need a God Pharaoh's Gift, though. We need to get our card advantage going. Ugin probably actively hurts us more than helps us. I guess I can kill the Supreme Phantom, but that doesn't feel good enough. If I minus, I'm going to clear most of my board. Chandra won't be around, so -3 will actually clear my entire board. But the fact that they have 3 cards in hand and they're not doing anything makes me assume that they're flooded, or they have something that interacts with us on a level that I'm not expecting. Like a board clear, although I'm not a huge fan of spirits running board clears. Okay. Just because they're a creature deck. Alright. Okay, that's a Merchant of the Veil. I'm not going to be haggling. It's probably better in my yard. Actually, do I want to haggle? Yeah, haggling actually nets me 1 more mana. So I'm going to haggle but not discard anything. That's going to put another counter on this Runaway Steamkin. So I'm getting 1/3 of a mana off of this. Then it doesn't really benefit me in the yard. It's just a generic 4/4 in the yard. Then we can run this guy out. We need to pay 3 more, so we're going to take this off since it's going to get an additional counter off the Bedlam Reveler. We'll see if they have a hard counter. Little surprised that my Bedlam Reveler was that cheap. He's not supposed to be that cheap in this deck. He's supposed to be reanimate to get 4 cards. Alright, that is actually quite live. So if they have a board clear, this is slightly awkward. I'd prefer to have the additional Merchant in the future, but I want to grow my Runaway Steamkins, and I can stomp at instant speed. Alright, so there's a Spell Queller on that. Interesting. I don't think that matters, though. Now I get to Alpha. If they try to eat my Merchant, I'll just stomp it. If they try to eat my second Runaway Steamkin, then I guess just stomp the Siren Storm Tamer. Actually, yeah, they can eat my Merchant here. The Siren Storm Tamer is going to be able to counter the target on the Spell Queller. Alright, well, just casting the spell is going to grow this Runaway Steamkin. So if they have removal, they have to use it. White shouldn't have an instant speed creature removal. If they counter Stomp, then my Runaway's still growing. I guess they could have Bounce. I'm expecting them to have Brazen Borrower, so they could just bounce the Runaway Steamkin. Okay. Not exactly sure I know what happened there. Coming back from the Spell Queller, you have the option to cast the instant or the creature, and I would 100% like to throw away this mountain for another mountain. I suppose I deserve that. Alright, opponents, your go. I feel like we have a pretty respectable board state. Whatever I top deck, I can cast with the Runaway Steamkin mana. Otherwise, they are just 4/4s. Yeah, I mean, we have 13 damage on the table. I have a couple more creatures coming down. Merchant of the Veil is actually looting, so I can activate this without a card in hand to just draw a card. I have to imagine they have to keep at least the Spell Queller back. Oh yeah, they're just done. Uh, Sweltering Suns comes in, Fry comes in. Fry is uncounterable, but it can still be spell quellered, so I need to be a little bit more cautious with how I go about that. Um, I'm guessing Gate to the Afterlife is just slow. Getting 6 creatures in your yard is actually kind of hard. We even run a lot of utility creatures, and it's still kind of hard. Chandra can get Spell Pierced and Spell Quellered, but I like Chandra. Combustible Gear Hulk is great. Ugin's great. Maybe just the Thrill of Possibilities. The 2-for-1 ability that our opponent's going to have with the Thrill of Possibilities just feels bad enough it's worth cutting. I guess I should also mention the Wild Slash. Wild Slash is in here for mono red as a way to remove creatures early. And the fact that opponent gets significant amount of counter magic and it can't kill Spell Queller just doesn't feel viable enough. Jeez, deck. We shouldn't have these kind of wrong half problems. Like, we will have some wrong half problems, but we only have like 5 cards that cost 7. That means we should have one of these in our opening hand. I think this is too slow for spirits, so let's ship it back. This is not great, but it's fine enough. I don't have a payoff for the Iron Crag, and since I have to go to 5, I'm going to be cutting that. Runaway Steamkin is going to be our mana generation here, and Sweltering Suns can clear the board. So it's either going to be Fry or the Merchant of the Veil. I think it has to be the Merchant of the Veil, because I'm not going to be discarding any of the current cards in my hand. Yeah, that's probably another reason why I don't want Wild Slash. Or, sorry, Thrill. That just gets so bad for us so fast. Like, if I tried to Thrill on my turn here, they would just wreck us. It's probably going to be at least a 2-2. Yep, 2-2. Not a huge fan of that sequencing, but you got it, opponent. I'm also getting the read that they have another one. Yep. I got the read that they had the other one because they left the other mana up. Like, now they're open to taking the damage. Yeah, not a huge fan of that line. Running out the Runaway Steamkin here. Next turn, Fry's pointed at the Mausoleum Wanderers. That will have Sweltering Suns up to hit our opponent. I'd like one more red card before I cast the Sweltering Suns, though, so my Runaway Steamkin will be a 4-4 by the time that it resolves. But that's Happy Magic Christmas Land. I don't live there. I just like to vacation there. Sometimes the thoughts help. They have 2 lands, and the fact that they were trying to be aggressive. No, that probably means Spell Queller to Fairy. Sad. So I think my sequencing is I'm going to Fry this so that it can't be countered, and then I'm going to Giant Teferi next turn. Because if I try to just kill Teferi or the Spell Queller here with Stomp, they'll just counter this, and then I don't even have the other half of the Bone Crusher Giant. So let's go ahead and do the uncounterable one here. That's also going to lower the clock on myself. If they are going to be leaving up the Spell Queller next turn, then it's not like that can get quellered. Sorry, this can get quellered, so I'd prefer to get rid of it now. This also turns on Sweltering Suns if opponent just taps out for something like the Lord for flying creatures. I think it's a bird. I don't know the name. I do know that it's the blue-white thing. Alright, leaving the mana up does not feel great. Fry is an instant. I suppose we should take advantage of that. They know about the Runaway Steamkin, so they have to be expecting something here. but when I'm only under a clock of 2 damage, I'm not overly concerned with it. Yep, Teferi is currently out of Stomp territory. Let's see here. Siren Storm Tamer. Yeah, so they can't counter Fry with that. That seems fine. I'll take my 2 like a boss. Then I think I am willing to cash out. Oh, Teferi! I hate Teferi. I really hate Teferi. Alright, so I'm going to try to Fry Teferi. If they have the Spell Queller, they'll eat the Fry. Then hopefully I just untap and Sweltering Suns. Opponent has nothing. I clear the board, Fry Teferi after Spell Queller goes away, and I think that's my only way out of this. And this is the thing I was talking about. Empyrean Eagle. Other flying creatures get +1/+1. With 4 mana up, I just have to assume that they have something, but with only 2 cards in hand and 5 life total, Mountain Sweltering Suns is my only out, and I don't get it, so we get to try to take it on the play. Spirits is a tempo deck. As I mentioned in the deck tech, not overly excited about playing interactive decks with this setup, but I mean, we have cards and we mold to 5. There's only so much we can do with that. Yeah, the fact that this gets hit by Spell Queller really ruins our day. Let's go ahead and play first. Where is our mana at? Oh boy. So we get to Merchant. I'm assuming we find a second land drop at that point. We get Runaway Steamkin, and we have to get Runner lands, or we mold to 5 again. We're so close. I think we have to go to 5. There's all the lands. A little late, though. Alright, Combustible goes away. All of these are tap lands. Merchant's probably the worst here. Yeah, I don't think I'm actually going to be haggling, so I guess Merchant's the worst here. Fabled Passage, so our castle comes in untapped. Next turn's likely going to be Fabled Passage unless I find a Thrill. If I Thrill, I might actually loot away Chandra at that point. Okay, so Thrill here, discard Chandra. Fabled Passage is tapped. But I won't be Sweltering Suns yet, so I suppose that's fine. Good cards. Okay, Fry's not bad. I wish I could have actually discarded the Combustible Gear Hulk to the Thrill, but life's full of little happy accidents. I suppose there's a world where I want to Fry that Sailor, just because it's the only clock opponent's represented, but I don't know why they left up 2 mana here. Excuse me, had to die. It could mean that they have more flash creatures, which looks like that's the case. It could also mean that they're on nothing at the moment. The paying costs and then not doing anything is very suspect. At the moment, the 1 damage probably isn't enough for me to take any action. I'm just looking for a way to get these combustible gear hulks out. Besides, I am fully expecting the opponent to have a spell queller at the moment. Yep, I think that means that we just hold up Fry. And depending on how the next couple of turns go out, I could also see cycling the Sweltering Suns. There is a Rattle Chains. That is worth frying. I don't like them having the ability to cast as though they had flash. So, bye you. Don't like you. Yeah, this is an annoying card. When it enters, it gives a creature hexproof, and then all of their spirits have flash. It just makes timing things horrible, especially with a Teferi out, limiting how it can interact. Basically gives their spirits haste. This looks like a 1-drop with a Spell Queller backing it up. Nope, looks like a Lord. Interesting. Definitely going to try to Sweltering Suns here. They could have Negate, which I could completely see after sideboarding, but got to go for the 2-for-1. Spell Pierce. Rough. All right. Well, I think we're on Iron Crag and Combustible Gear Hulk, and hoping opponent has nothing going on. Which, they have 4 cards in hand, and they have not been running out creatures, which seems unlikely. Spectral Sailor here is also going to allow them to start drawing cards while leaving up interaction until the end step, so 3 damage a turn is a respectable clock. Ugh. Sadness all around. Mutavault's also a spirit. It's going to increase their clock to 5 a turn. I think we're only on Iron Crag at this point. And the more turns that they draw, the more counter magic they're going to get. Yep, I just want an Iron Crag. I suppose Thrill would also be acceptable. Thrill into draw 2, set up for a better future turn, potentially find a land for the Combat Celebrant. The timing restrictions, and this card is so unfun. Like, we're already struggling, we don't need Teferi locking down the fact that we can't interact with our opponent. They tap Mutavault, which means they likely have a Spell Queller, and feeling very unlikely to move anywhere with this one. Well, we go for it. If they don't let us draw, and they don't have the Spell Queller, yep, they got it. Okay, we'll try one more. If we lose that, I'm going to show you goldfishing with this deck because it is actually really sweet. We had some rough stuff. Phoenix interacted, Mono Green just went above us, and then Spirits was just the fun police. They always seem to be. Goldfishing with this deck was amazing, though. I mean, I had turn 4, like, uber kills. It was absolutely delicious. It did usually go off on turn 5 or turn 6, which felt slow enough for Pioneer. It just really doesn't seem to be playing off that way. We do need our opponent to kind of just dirtle, and nobody we've played tonight's really given us that opportunity. Haggle also could be better. I don't know. We shipped it back a couple of times. We've also had some really rough mulliganing. So we have 17, 18, 19, 22 lands, and we've been having mana issues. Not overly psyched about that. If we're going to be playing something like this with this high of a curve, 22 should be just slightly a little bit on the low side, but we end up getting 6, or nope, we're at the full 8. Final version had full 8 looting effects. So we should be able to pitch things that we don't care about. Then we have plenty of filtering cards. Okay, this is fine. This is going to be haggle away a Bedlam Reveler, then hopefully start Runway Steam Kinning. Being on the draw, though, I don't know. I feel like this is slightly too slow after playing those first 3 matches. Legion's Landing means that this is probably green-white tokens. Let's discard Bedlam Reveler. Thrill's fine. If we end up whiffing on a land on the next 2 draws, Thrill should help get us there. The Iron Crag means that the God Pharaoh's Gift is going to get turned on, and definitely looks like green-white tokens. Okay, Merchant is actually a great draw here because Merchant is an additional red card. So we should actually be able to Iron Crag next turn, I believe. No, we'll need another 1-drop, but it's close. Missing a land here means we might get to do fun things. I like doing fun things. Nope, they had their land drop. Alright, this Steamkin is super tempting. If I were super greedy, I would probably just Merchant. No, I can't. Alright, discard Bedlam Reveler. Grow Steamkin just a wee bit. There's the additional mountain. Then we're going to haggle away a Combat Celebrant. Oh boy, that is super disgusting. Jermoka's Command is a card that opponent should be playing. Put a 1/1 counter and fight. Killing our Steamkin here would put us on top decking a mountain for Iron Crag. Oh, come on. Okay. That pause there looked like they were trying to figure out what modes to cast for Jermoka's Command. Yeah, this is fine. I actually think we might be killing opponent this turn. It'll be close. I don't think it's deterministically killing opponent, but it will be close. They left up a white here. There's a number of combat tricks in white. I'm not going to risk losing the Steamkin in case I don't find a land, which I do. Okay, so we're going to get a mountain. Then I can make a 2-drop here and still have 4 mana open for the Crag. Here's our Iron Crag. We'll grow our Steamkins. Then we'll God Pharaoh's Gift. Move to God Pharaoh's Gift. We're going to get our Combat Celebrant. Then... How close am I to dead? I can't make another spell this turn. I can kill the Nissa, which is probably required. I could just have 3 blockers, so opponent can only get in for 3 next turn. No, we're going to exert. There's no point not to. We're getting a Bedlam Reveler back. So let's attack opponent and exert. Then let's attack Nissa. That should untap my Runaway Steamkin and give me an additional combat step. This combat step's going to bring back a Bedlam Reveler, which will draw us 3 cards. Ah, those cards are terrible. And I don't think it's worth attacking. I think we're just blocking everything. Bedlam Reveler was not very kind. We discarded a creature and got a gate to the afterlife. We only have 2 creatures in our yard, so we can't even activate gate yet. Alright, there's a Gideon, which means an Anthem's coming down. But that means opponent's running out of gas. So I think what we're doing is we're going to trade with the voice token, which will get bigger after it dies. And then we double block this, go to 1. If they have a pump spell, I'm dead. Yeah, I think that's the plan. This will leave me with 1 Runaway Steamkin. This also gives them a blocker, but I don't think the current Bedlam Reveler is good enough to try to prioritize. Ugh, another gate to the afterlife. Alright, well, I think I'm just going to discard this hand. Gate to the afterlife reads, whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you can gain a life. So I can currently gain 1 life and loot. but if I just move to combat and bring in the Bedlam Reveler, I'll get a look at 3 fresh cards where I can cast Merchant in worst case scenarios and chump block again. So let's take a look at what we got here. There's our Bedlam Reveler. Okay, that's more of what we were looking for. So I can stomp, although I don't think that actually accomplishes a whole lot at the moment. I think we just go to combat. It is also worth mentioning that Field of Ruin at Danto should be kind of high priority. Exile Zone's covering a little bit, but they can create a token every turn. I think that our God Pharaoh Gift token's better than their Adanto token, though. So I can thrill, find a land, hopefully. I want a combustible this turn. It might be greedy not keeping Stomp, but sometimes you just gotta try to go for the combo kill. Oh, Fabled Passages? Really? Alright. So, on super chump block duty. Nothing with haste, please. And this right here is the reason that we're not playing as many lands. Okay, well, if opponent messes this up, I actually might get their voice token out of it. Oh, no, I won't because of the Gideon emblem. Wow! That is amazing! Alright, well, I get Combustible Gear Hulk, which will be a fantastic blocker. Yeah, I think we're just planning on Merchant, and I'm leaving the Field of Ruin up in case I have to hit Adanto. They are 100% planning on making a token. Let's see what they plan to do with the Combustible, though. So they can mill and just die here, even at 23. Again, options are I can draw 3, or they can... Yeah. Ooh, so I actually get to exert here. Do I want to? I can hit for 12? No, it's not worth it. Not with the Adanto out. Actually, Merchant's going to be blocking this turn. If they make this, it's a 3-3. It can't do anything. Yeah, let's attack and exert. This gives me an additional creature off the God Pharaoh's gift. This time around, I think I'm bringing in Runaway Steamkin. It's better than Giant. Yeah, those are some slim pickings down there. No attacks. Then I want to thin my deck. I honestly cannot believe the number of lands that we're seeing here. So I can cast Merchant, I can loot, but I think I just need to hit Adanto before this becomes a long-term problem. We are turning ahead, and this is one of the few ways that they're going to stay in this. They didn't even make a token in response, so that might mean that they have the Convoke, create 1/1s with lifelink. I think we lose if that's the case. Oh, they're just done. Okay. Well, Sweltering Suns is going to make a heroic appearance. This is going to even be better than versus Spirits. Alpine Moon could be a consideration, but I think this is the matchup for Wild Slash. They're going to just try to put out a bunch of little creatures and grow them, and Wild Slash can keep them from hitting critical mass. The Bedlam Revelers are worse than Combustible Gear Hulks, although we do have a lot of creatures here. Just trim some of those. We still want an Iron Crag. Bone Crusher Giant's still pretty good. Thrill's fine. Runaway's still fine. Gate to the Afterlife has just not been very impressive in this current shell. Combat Celebrant we can just trim one of. Being a 4/1 the first half is so awkward. That's looking fine. I don't know. Maybe take out another Combat Celebrant for a Combustible. First Strike does feel relevant versus the token deck. Oh, I'm dying again. My apologies, guys. Let's get a drink going. Again, Alpine Moon is in here for Scapeshift Field of the Dead and for Lumbering Falls. It's probably a wasted slot. What is with these hands? How does this actually work out, though? Because this is a medium 5-card hand. If this were a mountain, I'd actually really consider keeping this, because it's going to be Mountain Merchant, pitch the Bone Crusher Giant in the 5-card. Let's actually talk 7. So that'd be Mountain Merchant, discard the Combustible Gear Hulk, find a land, Thrill, discard probably Chandra with this hand, draw 2, and see 4 new cards off of it. I have 21 lands still left in the deck of 53. Okay, I'm being greedy. This league has been a dumpster fire so far, so I think I'm okay to keep a greedy hand. We have the board clear, which is the primary reason I'm hanging on to this. And honestly, Wild Slash is fine. As long as this is coming in tapped, just doing it now. Wow, we fell kind of far behind on clock on that one. My apologies, opponent. I usually try to play faster than that. Okay, that kind of changes things. That is likely going to get Wild Slashed. Whenever it becomes tapped, it creates a token. Loot into... I just have to kill this. On the plus side, even if we dirtle on lands, I have plays, but... Wow, they had another one. They're making land drops, though, so they're getting very far ahead of me. Oh, if this is a Gideon. Okay, it's not a Gideon. Really, deck? Really? Alright, well, still no Planeswalkers. I don't think I come back from Planeswalkers off of this. We have the Iron Crag. Chandra's going to be better long term. If I miss... Even if I hit my lands, I think Chandra's not going to be able to stick around very long. A God Pharaoh's Gift would at least turn on Combustible. Yeah, I think I just talked myself out of Chandra. The Sweltering Suns could be another consideration just because... Oh my lord. Okay, we're 16 cards in with 2 lands. I cheat the other way, so we'll call it 3 lands. Let's calculator this, because this seems ridiculous. And it's a tap land. Amazing. Okay, well, I'm going to invest in my game plan. It seems like opponents are running a little slow over there. We were 16 cards in out of 60. $98. So we were 0.018% to see that many lands in the top of our deck. I mean, Magic is a game of high variance, but still, that's pretty ridiculous. Runaway Steamkin is feeling a little silly here because I actually think I'm going to be Sweltering Suns just to get away from them flipping the Legion's Landing. They will likely castle Ardenvel at my end step. So that might be weak. I honestly need to top deck a God Pharaoh's Gift and a Mountain, so interesting attack here. So they're afraid of me growing the Runaway Steamkin with being tapped out. Either that or they're about to Convoke. Yeah, I don't know what that attack was. Okay. That's pretty painful. Well, there's the God Pharaoh's Gift, so I need a mana here. Okay, I'm going digging. Wow, this is slightly embarrassing. Combat Celebrant's just an additional combat step. It's better in the yard. It also gets killed by a token until it's a 4/4, so yeah. I really wouldn't put it past our deck to miss on a land again, so I think right now my current plan is Sweltering Suns. If I don't miss on a land, 100% getting back this Combustible Gear Hulk. Could also see opponent actually bringing in Artifact Destruction. I am at such a loss for words here. So I'm 21 with 3. Technically 4. Just FYI, we moved to 0.008%. Look at that, we found a land. Alright, let's Ironcrag Feet into obvious artifact destruction. We can God Pharaoh's Gift. And I actually don't know if I'm bringing back the Combustible Gear Hulk here. If they make us draw 3, we're just going to discard to hand size. Although Combat Celebrant... Yeah, Combat Celebrant to block actually seems fine. We can give ourselves a turn here. Alright, Raise the Alarm. Doesn't seem super powerful at the moment. This technically costs a mana less, so a little weird sequencing from opponent, but they got it. Yep, there's the Knight of Autumn. Maybe it was greedy not just bringing back both, but another Ironcrag, or honestly just not doing horrible on land, should be able to get us there. Oh, please, 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 please. Alright, this is going to be a big board clear. And I actually think I'm going to thrill first, because it seems so improbable that we've hit this low number of lands that there's no way I don't find the land I need here. Come on. 0.0008. So I can stomp the knight, we'll take 5. Or I just thrill, find a land. We'll be at 5 mana. That means that I can stomp and Sweltering Sun, so I'll take none the following turn. Oh my gosh. This is disgusting. Alright, whatever. We're going to stomp the knight. Honestly, I don't believe it. I just really don't believe it. Okay, so I think I'm dead then? Nope, I'm taking 10. So let's go ahead and stomp here. Hey, look, we've actually got a land. Is there a world where I can Ironcrag and... No, because this limits us to one more spell. If I... Nope, I just have to Sweltering Suns. There's no sugarcoating this. Then we can Thrill. Alright, so that's mildly interesting. If I find a land, I can Chandra into Ironcrag into God Pharaoh's Gift. And opponent being at 30 means I am actually not able to kill them with the Combustible Gear Hulk, so they're likely going to let us mill. Really? No lands here? Ironcrag into God Pharaoh's Gift, hold up Wild Slash. Yeah, I think that's my best line. Bustable Gear Hulk. Just for the record, it is turn 12 and I have 5 mountains. They let us mill and they take 3. um, so if they minus Nissa, I'm dead. Because they're going to create the 1/1 here. Then the plant token's lethal. Actually, Gideon's just lethal. Horrible sequencing from opponent, but whatever. They're going to make their 2 tokens. They're going to put the 1/1 counters on, then they're going to alpha. Sure, let's set our Combustible Gear Hulk. Alright, well, we're not going to be able to cash out anything from this league at this point. Oh, we have one more? Okay, that's fine. We actually might be able to do that. Phyrexian Revoker could potentially come in for the Planeswalkers. Actually, what does this look like? Yeah, let's do that. I think the Phyrexian Revoker might be higher priority than the Bone Crusher Giant, especially because it looks like opponents trying to take full advantage of all the lands, so this probably has something to name regardless of the current board state. Oh boy. We were very close to stabilizing and coming back from that. Like an Ugin would have just ended the game. But wow, that was just so bad. We were so mana screwed. Like, no joke. As long as we're waiting for our opponent. 99926. Probability of that happening. Yes, I'd love to play first. This is pitch Bedlam Reveler to... Yeah. This is actually 7 cards with 3 lands and a loot effect. It's sad that that's all I really want in life. And we have not been getting it. Let's discard the Bedlam Reveler. And found another God Pharaoh's Gift. Oh, Lord. Alright, well, opponent has nothing at the moment. I think that means that I'm going to hold up Wild Slash. I haven't seen anything definitively I want to name with the Phyrexian Revoker. And this is just going to be a tap land. Yep, that's fine. That's actually going to be the name for the Phyrexian Revoker, so it can't filter their draws for them. If they were planning on winning with something very specifically, then that prevents them from doing it. Phyrexian Revoker. We'll name Smuggler's Copter. Then we have Wild Slash on the ready. Next turn we can Merchant. Scavenger Grounds is actually fine here. That's going to allow us to Merchant and hold up Wild Slash. Opponent likely has Raise the Alarm, so I'm not attacking. I think the Phyrexian Revoker is doing more for me on defense. I'll call it. This. Alright, there's an Amara. The combo here is Smuggler's Copter taps Amara, and then they get the Soldier with Lifelink, and she doesn't need to attack. Ouch. Okay. Conclave Tribunal is targeting the Phyrexian Revoker. Seems fine. Gonna kill the Amara, just that they can't actually generate an ungodly number of tokens. And Ironcrag right off the top. Please and thank you. Come on, deck, you owe us. Honestly, the Sweltering Suns would probably be pretty decent off the top as well. Discarding another Saproling Migration. Oh, wow. Alright, well, let's discard the 7-drop. And I suppose we're just chilling. One more mana and I can Combustible Gear Hulk, which seems fine. We are about to go over to the top of them, but having a bunch of uncastables in hand just feels awful. Green-white tokens was actually my deck during, I want to say, Fate Reforged? No, it was after Zendikar. It was Zendikar standard. Gideon and Nissa was just such a good combo together. Yep, I can't block that. And unfortunately, most of my big expensive things are in hand, so if they mill, they're not even going to die. That was a good loot. Let's discard that. Okay, I guess that's technically a live draw. So what I have to do here is block the Gideon and then Sweltering Suns. Even if I get a land, I have to Sweltering Suns. But preventing the 5 damage from the Gideon is probably top priority. Smuggler's Copter should be able to kill me. They can also flip this Westville Abbey. So the 9/7 might be coming. I actually think we're just dead. Even if I Godpharaoh's Gift next turn, which would require an Ironcrag off the top, I'm only getting back a Combustible Gear Hulk at the moment. If I get Ironcrag, I can not Ironcrag and Sweltering Suns. I'm pinched on red. It just seems so unlucky with some of the draws that we've had tonight. Okay. Well, they're not flipping Westville Abbey this turn. But they do get to make a token, which means it's going to be easier to flip next turn. Discards Redundant Legions Landing. Block Gideon so I don't die. Not by much. There's a Voice of Resurgence, so they're at least going to get a token. Should all this be fine? I think my only Hail Mary here is to run out the Combustible Gear Hulk. And hope that opponent mills and dies. But seeing as how we're tapped out, they're going to have us draw, and then it's over. So Sweltering Suns would clean everything up down here, but then they just activate Gideon and kill me. Yep. Alright, well, they figured it out. So I do actually, like, we're not going to be able to win this next match, but I do want to... Come on, Moto, be cool. Let's go to open play for a second and just start a 1v1. Yeah, so this actually seems fine. Let's keep this guy. We'll haggle, discard a Ironcrag because we already have a ton of them. That draws a Runaway Steamkin, and this hand is already shaping up to look amazing gold fishing. So this gets to be a Combat Celebrant. We'll grow this dude. Then here's an Ironcrag. Get the Godpharaoh's Gift out. We'll move to combat and not really get anything yet because we didn't discard it, but there's Merchant. Now we're going to have enough mana next turn to Combustible Gear Hulk. Sure, we can haggle. That'll put a combustible in the yard. There's a combat celebrant. So yeah, what we're going to do is loot. We're going to discard the combat celebrant. Additional land is fine. May as well get a couple of extra casts off. We'll go to combat. Bring back combat celebrant. So on turn 5, we're going to attack and exert. So we currently have 10 damage coming in, 12 damage coming in. Because we're attacking ourselves, I'm not actually going to attack with the others, but attack and exert will untap everything. We are hitting for 12. Sorry, 4, 4. Yeah, we're hitting for 12. Then we're going to untap. I have to exert this guy. So he comes in. We'll block with the merchant just because we don't want to take the damage yet. Then we'll go to combat. Bring back the combustible gear Hulk. I'm going to take the damage here just so that you can see how much we can potentially mill for. Okay, it was only 6 there, but that's still pretty decent. But then after we just attacked for 12, we're attacking for an additional 10, 12. So we just hit for 24 on turn 5. With this board state, then we get to untap, and we can even just hard cast the combustible gear Hulk and have the 6/6. But what I'm going to do is Runaway Steamkin, just so that we can start getting the additional counters. We'll loot. Discard this guy. Godpharaoh's Gift is fine. It'll just give us 2 triggers from here on out. But we have another combat celebrant in the yard now, so we'll get the additional combat step. And again, attack and exert. That actually untapped our other combat celebrant. But we're attacking for 4, 6, 10, 13 there. We'll block the token just so that we don't actually take the damage. Then after hitting for 13, we get the additional combat step. We're going to hit with the Gear Hulk and likely mill again. And we just milled 8, 12, 20 damage off of a Gear Hulk mill. Then we are going to attack for 8. This guy was on tap, so 12, 14, 16, 19 more. So we essentially just hit for 80 damage on by turn 6, which is pretty solid. It's a little too slow for for Pioneer, but it is very viable. And that hand wasn't even necessarily amazing. We just had a couple of the combo pieces, and today while we were playing, we saw a lot of the wrong half issues. So this is actually fine because of the Gyre Reach. This is a card I'd consider a couple of more copies of, but I'm going to lead on Fabled Passage since it's our tap land. Then we're going to get out our Runaway Steamkin. And here we're actually pretty solid. So on the off chance that we draw Ironcrag, I'm going to lead on Combat Celebrant here. It's also going to grow our Runaway Steamkin. There's a combustible, honestly not too bad. But now I'm going to stomp. I'm going to stomp our... Actually, I'm going to stomp the Runaway Steamkin and just pretend I use it as removal. Move to our next combat stat. Oh, look at that. We even got another stomp. So if I stomp, I'm going to have 5 mana left over, which isn't really quite good enough. So let's just Bone Crusher here for maximum value. Or we haven't made our land drop yet, so let's actually loot away one of our Combustible Gear Hulks. Perfect. Deck's actually kind of working this time. Again, going to stomp, pretending like it's removal. We'll move to our next turn, and we actually have 6 mana for the Combustible Gear Hulk as it is. But Steamkin's helping out. With the ability to one-shot our opponent, kind of just want to see what the additional card draw does here. Okay, that didn't help too much. Let's loot away again. I could cast the Giant here. Oh, look, Ironcrag Feet. Super close to being able to go off again. Thrill of Possibility is great. Just gets us more mana on the Runaway Steamkin. Merchant of the Veil can pitch some of these lands. Also makes it so that we can cash out our Runaway Steamkin. Okay, Ironcrag's not really what I'm looking for here. Let's get our Merchant out. Just so we can keep going deeper. Going to Iron Crag because we're going to be activating Merchant here. There's another God Pharaoh's Gift. We can only cast one more spell this turn, though, so I think I'm going to Bone Crusher Giant so that our Runaway Steamkin will actually have enough mana the following turn. And you can kind of see what's supposed to happen with this deck. So turn 7 is slightly slow, but we've actually filled our board with respectable creatures. 4/1/6/6, a 2/3 that can allow us to draw in the future, a 4/3 that's relevant, a 4/4, but this 4/4 is going to give us a lot of additional mana. But this is going to be God Pharaoh's Gift. I'm not even going to try to loot into anything better. Again, I just kind of want to get an idea for what the average combustible Gear Hulk is. So let's not draw. And I hit for 6. That's a decent amount of reach for turn 7. So, I don't know. I kind of just wanted to show what some of the gold fishing for this deck looked like because it was showing some kind of promise. Excuse me. Dying. So this deck, I actually don't think it's too bad, despite the fact that we're currently 0-4 in our league. I'm not going to play the last match because there's not much incentive to clear it out. In MTGO, if you go 1-4, you don't get any prize support. There is definitely a home in here somewhere where you can Iron Crag into God Pharaoh's Gift. As the format gets larger and we get less random creatures like Combustible Gear Hulk, it'll probably get better. Another one of the cards that I was really looking into was Itali, the Elder Dinosaur. Whenever it attacks you, exile the top card of each player's library, and you can cast them for free. So this ended up getting cut because we had a lot of stuff on the top end. It likely could take the same spot as Ugin. In a world where we have a good Runaway Steamkin, or we even just Chandra on turn 4, it's very possible that we can have a Chandra and a Ugin out on turn 4. This deck can play a lot like Tron with the right hands, but we ended up getting interacted with just a little bit too much tonight. The Knight of the Reliquary versus green-white, I probably could have just taken the Combat Celebrant and exerted and gotten the Combustible Gear Hulk and tried to get a better board state for. I should have known that that was probably going to be their artifact removal. But so that's on me. I can 100% take that. Artifact destruction is going to be a problem for this deck. There's not a ton of it running around the format right now, but it is something that's going to hurt us pretty bad. Merchant of the Veil being our loot is fairly meh. Merchant of the Veil is good because you can technically just draw a card if you have nothing in your hand. Thrill of Possibility did feel like it gave this deck some legs, but we honestly need something like an Elvish Mystic. It would be fantastic if there's an Adventure or Split card that gave us mana on one. And net mana, I understand there's the green one that rainbows your mana. I don't know. A lot of random thoughts here. It does feel like this deck is missing maybe one thing to be able to go off correctly. Leyline of Sanctity could also be a consideration for this deck. Just because you have so many ways to discard it if it's not relevant. It has 4 CMC to flip with. The Gear Hulk. If you have ideas, let me know. I think is the bottom line of what I'm trying to go for here. It did actually show a lot of promise in playtesting, but it just didn't pay off. And God Pharaoh's Gift might not be the best home, but we also never cast Ugin tonight. And Ugin would have just ended the game in so many places. Maybe something a little bit more fast-manny would be better. But I think Green Devotion's technically taking the lead there. Let's take a look at being ours tomorrow. See what happens. I'm assuming Oko on God Pharaoh's Gift is also pretty bad for us, but thanks for hanging around tonight. I am thirteene. I do a bunch of fun decks for Squirrel Dealer. We have a ton of content up on YouTube. Lately it's been Pioneer, but we have a full history of Modern. Feel free to check it out, and